They are barrier breakers, record setters, some of the best athletes to come out of Hamilton, Ohio. It's Payton, Willie, and Mike, the Townsend brothers. Welcome to Lamps Lab. Like I was just saying, very honored to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, great to be here.
I want to start way back in Brundage, Alabama, and tell me about, being born there and kind of the early parts of your lives before you moved up here to Hamilton. Anybody want to jump in? Maybe Payton, let's start with you.
It was a one-time thing. I was young, still young. I think Mike was born. He was born, but it wasn't much. My dad was working uptown. We lived about maybe a mile from town, and that's all most I remember. I remember one time Willie had took me up to his work. Well, I had cut my heel, part of the heel off. He took me to work and he rushed me to the hospital then. And ain't too many years after that, we had moved to Hamilton. And it was a job to get there because it was just us three and my mother, my sister, and I think my uncle was with us in one car, driving from Alabama to Hamilton. I remember that part of it. My uncle, he's my dad's brother, and Roosevelt, and we all stayed in one house. And so all of them got a job. My mother got a job, my uncle got a job, my dad got a job. That's where it all really started from, right there.
Nice.
And Willie, anything else y'all can remember?
Hey, I took my daughter by the old house about 3 years ago. Then in Brundage, I had come out to visit my son who just moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. That's where I live now. And I was living back then in California. And so I'd driven across country to see him, and then picked up my daughter who was out here, and we drove back, and I took her through Brundage by the old house, by the railroad tracks and all that stuff. She was somewhat taken back, but yeah, that's the way it is. You learned a little bit about the history of your family, and it's nice. She took it all in the right way, and Brundage, and I remember days in the old house and next to the railroad tracks and the outside plumbing, and baths once a week, and and sharing clothes and going to church on Sunday. I remember all those things, and having toys that we had to make and play with, and sharing times. Had one bike that we broke eventually. Used to jump over hills and stuff and jump off buildings and things, so life was good. We didn't know how good we had it until later on, but
Right.
life was good in Alabama. That things were bad. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, you had your people that didn't agree with us, and that wanted to keep us separate because there was a railroad track down the middle of town, and it kept the whites on one side and the blacks on the other side. That's how it was.
Right.
Yeah, I'll tell my side. We came up here through, my father had a Mercury, and I rode in the footboard of the car because I was that small. And I was, that's my biggest memory of us coming up this way. But prior to, I was able to go back with my uncle back to Brundage to see my grandfather, and got to see the house that we lived in and things of that nature. But found out a lot of history because a lot of the kids down there were our cousins. And I remember walking around from the old house to with my uncle to visit one of our cousins and we was walking. I think I was 10, maybe 10 or 11. And we was walking, kept walking. It was about a quarter of a mile from the old house. And then we made a turn on the corner, and there was a house on the corner with a big, huge maple tree. And there must have been 15 to 20 kids in there. And they all said hi to me. And the reason they all said hi, because every one of them was my cousins.
Wow.
And I couldn't believe that. But I said, oh my, this is amazing. And being able to share that. But it was fantastic. I was so young. When I was a baby, we had a dog. The dog name was Pluto. And Pluto was my guardian, actual guardian. My mother could put me outside and then just let me be outside. And Pluto would guard me from being able to get in trouble. I mean, he would cut me off. If I get up and try to walk away, he grabbed my arm or something and pulled me back to the house. But I remember Pluto from those days in Brundage. Now, my grandfather, now talking about an entrepreneur, he owned 6 houses on the same street that we lived on.
Mm-hmm.
He also owned a store.
Yep.
Our grandfather was, in those times, you got to say, in the late 50s and early 50s, he was a big-time entrepreneur. And I have to bring that out and learned that later on. But he was renting all the houses along our street almost. Just about everybody on our street was renting from our grandfather.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then we came to Hamilton, Ohio.
Yeah, he had a sawmill that he used to cut wood and take it to different people's houses where they can have fires in their fireplaces. So it was really cool. I remember riding in the truck, and I lost my hat one time. My mother told me not to go. My father told me not to ride on the truck. I lost my hat on the truck, and but I like going with him because we would go to different people's houses, black and white, and unload wood for their fireplaces.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, when you guys came up to Hamilton, what part of town, where'd you live at, and what sort of things did you kind of do as kids, before you got into like middle school?
We moved to Carver's Place. I think that was the name of it back then,
That's
which
it.
was over by Harrison Elementary. Is that right?
Right,
Is that right, brothers?
Yeah.
And we lived over there, and we started school. And I remember repeating first grade because we talked really slow and we had that southern drawl, and it wasn't recognized up north as having the proper education as of yet. And so, we I had already had some schooling when we were in the South. Peyton and I had already been in school, but then when we came north, that was one of the first things that I recognized, that they wanted us to repeat a grade so that we could get caught up to what the current situation was in schooling in Ohio. There wasn't bad. I mean, I learned a lot, and it was okay.
Being fairly close in age, all three of you, what was the competitiveness like growing up and playing sports and probably competing in everything when you were coming up? What was that like? Peyton,
It
what do you
was,
say about that?
it was different than what we used to be in because it was rough for me. For high school wasn't too bad, but got into college that was real bad. Come from up north and coming back down to Louisiana is a big difference, and especially in college. Cause I remember my freshman year it was rough because I went to one school, North Louisiana, and we go out there on the floor. They were throwing pennies and quarters and everything with us on the floor. There wasn't but 3 blacks on the team, And first game was there, and the game was ended up with 13-11. That was the score was. That's how bad they handled. There was no time limit for on time. You play 20 minutes the first half and 20 minutes the second half. That was it. And it's a lot of difference between now and then, and especially high school. High school, it wasn't as bad. We had one bad time at Hamilton, and I think it was at Taft. Willie. My dad got mad because they had a sign up there, take all the Townsend brothers, all the Townsend.
Sorry, that's my clock.
Sorry. I was like, whoa.
Like, oh, we get a spiritual move there going on.
Yeah, I'll fix that. Hey, no problem. I'll fix that. Yeah. Competition in Hamilton. Yeah, we played. We played some baseball, mostly basketball and football. And, we moved from Carver Place to a place on 8th Street right up in front of Jefferson Elementary School. Mm-hmm. And when we were there, they had a basketball court in the back that we played basketball, and we could run full court with the kids in the neighborhood. We had grass. They had grass in the front of the school. That's where we played football. And in the far back of the school in the back we played baseball. We played fast pitch baseball, and then we would also play tennis ball, play with a broom handle. We play strikeout against the wall, so we were always competing, always worked against playing against my older brother, and Michael didn't start out, but he eventually came on, and we started playing with him, and we would play with the kids in the neighborhood. And usually as competition happened in the neighborhood, we all ended up on the same basketball team, so it was fun time. And then we would I can remember going up to Middletown and playing against some of the guys from Middletown, and we used to go up and do that on a Sunday with some of the players. And it was fun. It was enjoyable. Things in Hamilton, as I'm sure that my brothers remember, there were some things, the Ku Klux Klan was there, and they kept things in an uproar and the disturbance, things on down in the ward, down on Front Street, and then at the courtyard, they would have rallies and stuff, just basically just trying to instigate and create problems. And but it didn't keep us from playing the sports and competing with each other and playing sports against each other. Taft, which was the running high school that we all at Garfield competed against, I played basketball, I played football, I ran track. I played a little baseball in junior high school, and didn't play in high school. I'm sorry, I loved the game, but I couldn't. I couldn't stay awake. It kind of kept me off guard. I was bored. But I love playing the game. I still do. But it's just different for me. Hamilton was competitive against playing against Payton and playing against Michael. Actually, playing against Payton helped me in college, because I ended up playing against guys like Bill Walton and McAdoo and people like that, because they were taller than me, because my coach at the time, Digger Phelps, felt that at Notre Dame I was probably the one person on the team that was probably tough enough to guard people like Bill Walton and McAdoo. We had other guys that were a lot taller than I was, and Michael talked about that too, but they weren't not nearly as assertive or aggressive as I was on the basketball floor.
And is that kind of how you see it too, Mike? The competitiveness. What was your vantage point of that?
Mine, I have to be honest with you, by me being the youngest, and I actually started school here in Hamilton, so I didn't have the issue of being held up. lucked out for me that by them holding them back a year, we was all in succession. So that made it really nice from the standpoint of the sports thing. But like Willie said, I came along and started playing basketball, started playing football like we had. Jefferson School is gone now, but if you recall, if you get a picture of it back in the days, the 60s through the 70s, you get a picture of it. The grass Willie's talking about was grass. The out of bounds was the sidewalk to one side. The out of bounds on the other side was the building.
Yes.
If you got tackled into the building, that was just part of the game. And we also had a big bush at both ends, and big, huge bush. And you could use the bush to go around it. If you got around on the other side and you were still open, they could throw you a pass. That's the kind of games we played, and we played every day, and it was tackle, and it wasn't like we say, it was very competitive. By having my brother out there was made it even more competitive. When it went to the other side of the school, it was basketball. So I had two brothers who I had to be very competitive against, and didn't nobody really know who I was other than I was Payton and Willie's younger brother. They didn't know my name. They just Payton's brother or you Willie's brother. And that carried on all the way to college, But I didn't mind that because they were my brothers and they was leaders in their school, both from an academic with Willie and sports-wise with Payton. Payton didn't you make, I want to say, All-American honorable mention when you was in high school?
Yeah, I made All-American. Last game of the season.
When he was in high school. And that just blew my mind. I said, this little man from Hamilton, Ohio is All-American, and they found it here in Hamilton, Ohio. And I was just a sophomore then. So I had something to chase after. And it basically made me want to get better each and every year. My junior year, then my senior year, I wanted to do more than they did. They went to state. I was just a sophomore. They went to state, had a chance to win state. If it weren't for one referee being blind, we would have won state. But that was an interesting thing because the state game, the pregame to the final, we had tickets, and it had snowed somewhere, I guess, like maybe 9 or 10 inches. And the drive to Columbus, usually an hour and a half, right? It took 4 hours to drive to Columbus from here. And lucky my father was a chauffeur, so he knew how to drive through this stuff. So we drove and got there. And I remember the principal was Abe Hamilton. And my mother had called him and told him we needed tickets. But we didn't realize once we got there that we also needed a hotel room. So first game was played. It was against Lima. And Junior and Willie, they beat him. So now it's like 11 o'clock at night. 11 o'clock at night, they're in the locker room. And my mother goes to see Abe Hamilton again, the principal. And she goes to him and tells him, we need a room. We need a room to stay in, and we're not going to pay for it. And if you don't do that, we also need better seats because in the Ohio State Stadium, we were sitting in the rafters. We, the brother, the mother and father, and the sister of the two that's making you go to the finals. Told him all that, and she said, we need that room right away because it's 11 o'clock at night. The next game tomorrow's in the afternoon. And if you don't get us that room, guess what? I'm taking Payton, I'm taking Willie, putting them in the car, and we going back to Hamilton. Wow. My mother said, I about fell out. I couldn't believe she did that, but she did. And we got the tickets, and we got the room. They didn't even know about that. That was kind of wild.
We didn't.
No,
They didn't know about it. But she was going to take Willie and Payton. and we was going to leave and go back to Hamilton. But unfortunately, the referee got in the way. We didn't win the state. We should have won the state had he missed the call. Payton was at the other end of the court when the foul was called, and he turned around. When he turned around, Payton just happened to be standing there, and he pointed at him, and that was his 5th foul. At that time, I knew we'd have won. We was playing some great teams.
Yeah.
Columbus East.
Well, yeah, I do want to.
Yeah, that was some of the.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to tell that story because I know those two didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, that's a great story, man.
Yeah.
Mom wasn't having anything.
No, she wasn't.
She wasn't.
She was not.
Well, I do want to take you to Garfield High School next, and I want to start with basketball, and just to run some numbers. Payton, you were a 2-time first-team All-League your junior and senior year, and the all-time leading scorer with 1,138 points. Willie, you were second all-time, 988 points. First team All-League as a senior. And Mike, you finished 20th overall, 498 points. And again, first team All-League as a senior. Payton, what did you feel your strengths were on the basketball court? And, maybe in this modern day, who did your game resemble?
I really had a good thing. I think Ron Sutton was I played with him for 2 years, 1 year for sure, and kind of followed him behind that because he taught me a lot of stuff what I wasn't doing I should have done, and he helped me a whole lot doing that part of my senior year, his senior year, and my junior year, and it kept on going. I just pick up a little bit more every year, or summertime I kind of double up for everything I didn't know, and my coach Sweeten, he kind of helped us, all three of us, to stay together and improve everything, and I got really out of him because he really stuck with us, and whatever my mother said, he did, but if she get mad, watch out, she gonna tell him off. And it kind of helps to help everybody going together, especially the brothers, to stay together, and we kind of look out to each other every game we were looking at playing. And after the game, we make sure all of us got home safely. Because that years and like that was kind of rough for everybody, for black athletes, especially in high school and going to college. And when I got my senior year, I had 2 schools after me, and there was a school in Little Rock, Arkansas. I went down there. My dad drove down there and went down. I was going to sleep in a dungeon. He said, "No, son, you're not going to do that." So Coach Shipley, where I went to school at, southwestern Louisiana at the time, and he drove down there and he said, "Son, you like down here?" I said, "I don't know, Dad." And he said, "Well, if you don't like it, we're going back home." And so we went back home, and then Coach Shipley drove up there, and he sat down with my mother and dad and asked them could my son go to school down there? He said, "Yeah, he can go to school if he want to. If he don't want to, he ain't going." And I ended up going down there because he came to the house, he ate dinner with us and everything, and sit down and talk to me. That's the head coach, not the assistant coach. The head coach came and sit down and talk to him. He's not following, and coming down here to Louisiana. And everything else is a thing I always remember. My 2 brothers, Willie, always remember him because he always my dad called him a hard head. That's what he used to tell me. He's a hard head. You got watching. I said, "Dad, we all got a hard head, and we always gonna stick together." He said, "Son, that's the best way to be." And that's the most part of my years at Hamilton, at the Garfield. and I enjoyed every minute of it. The school was one of the greatest schools I went to, the high school, and they said Taft were the best, but we ended up being the best out of the years I was there. Had some good players on the team now. We had some good players on the team. We had some good guards. We had good forwards. And I always end up being the center. I didn't want to be the center, but I ended up being the center.
Yes, sir. And Willie, what was your game kind of like on the basketball floor? And also, what do you remember? What was your point of view of that tough runner-up finish to Columbus East in the championship game?
My game was more of defense. I love playing defense, and I think I might be first or second with the most rebounds. I think I'll rebound my brother there with the most rebounds for Garfield. And but I just love playing defense. I could learn to read things and read what was going on, and that became part of my aggressive part of the game. And I just loved it. I thought it was the way to get more points. You know, I don't mind running plays and setting it up, but you got to play defense to play the game. And as far as who I would compare myself to, I don't know, people that I think about today's game, and I think about. I love women. I love women's. I love watching women play basketball in college because I think they still have that skill, learning to play and they're playing the game the way when I was a young person I used to play. And I think the women of today in college are playing. A lot of them are playing that way, and they're running plays and they're getting the layups and they're getting the jump shots and they're getting that game going. And at Garfield, I love playing there. I just thought it was a great place to play. Crowds were great. We sometimes we go up to Miami University and play up there in their arena. It was just fun. And comparing, I don't know who I would compare myself to. Somebody that likes to play defense, I guess, in college or in high school. That's who I would compare myself to. I didn't, scoring points, okay, you can score points, but I wasn't a jump shooter. I later became one, but more of a defensive person. Even in college, Digger Phelps, who was Notre Dame's coach, he would say, you're going to have to guard this guy, who was usually the best player. And in high school, Coach Bobby Sweeten, who would say, hey, you're going to have to guard this guy. He scored 39 points last night or 2 weeks ago or a week ago. So you're going to have to hold him down. If you can hold him down to 30, we'll win. And so I had a goal and I knew what I needed to do, and that's how I played my game. I think that my ability to play the game in high school, basketball that is, in high school, helped me in general to be a stronger person on the football field when I get ready to play football. There was lots of things that translated over: footwork, hand-eye coordination, catching the ball. All those things kind of translated over into football. And at Garfield, it was a good starting place. I remember Lou Florio, the football coach, and those guys, they were no nonsense kind of coaches. They didn't Bob Sweeten. I know my mother was involved with a lot of things, but Sweeten and Florio, they were kind of guys that would listen to you and they wanted to work with you and help you to become better players as well as better people. I just thought that Garfield was a great place to be. I mean, we had all this other stuff going on around Garfield, but I remember one time going back. I was married then. I took my wife back, and we were coming out of Hamilton, going back to Dayton because I moved to Dayton, living in Centerville. And I remember going by this one place. No, I wasn't in Centerville yet. I was still in in Michigan. I drove by the old fairgrounds.
Mm.
There was that's where the Ku Klux Klan was having a rally, and I remember they had their cone hats on and everything, and we drove by. We stopped at the traffic light right there by the fairgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
My wife had never seen the Klan, and so she looked over and she said, "Who are those guys that are dressed in Halloween outfits?" You know, I'm sitting there saying, "Okay, no, that's the Klan. That's the Ku Klux Klan. They're having a rally." I says, "We're not going to stop it. If you want to, we can stop it, but not we're going to drive on." You know, so Hamilton. Lots of fun things. Garfield, great things. You know, lots of guys, black and white, mixing together for a common goal, and we did a great job at it.
Yes, sir. And Mike, tell me about, being the youngest and kind of coming behind those two on the basketball floor after, what they have been doing. Talk about maybe like the pressure maybe that was on you. People expect you to perform at that level as well. And then take me in a little bit into, playing football at Garfield with Willie after that.
Okay. Appreciate the question there, Brandon. Yeah, it was very tough following my two older brothers. Special in that prior to the three of us, there was the Sutton brothers. And the Sutton brothers sort of like set the stage at Garfield. Ron and Gus, and they played with Payton, and then they left. When they left, that's when the three of us were following that. So the market was already high with the Sutton brothers, and then came the Townsend family, and so therefore we had to follow it up. Payton and Willie started setting the standard. They was winning districts. Willie was playing football. They was winning the GMC and stuff like that. And then when I got there, it was just expectation was, now we got three of them. We're gonna win all kind of things and things of that nature. But it was wild in that playing basketball for Coach Sweden and Payton and Willie was varsity. I was on the sophomore team. Got moved up during the week for the weekend to play on the JVs every now and then. But basically, my sport has always been and still is football. I played basketball because I got two brothers that were great. Simple as that. I played that because they played, so I played too. And found out I could run track, run high hurdles, do an open quarter, and things of that nature, broad jump, high jump, as well with Willie. And Willie did one other thing, he pole vaulted. And so it was just something being around my brothers that made me go into all these various sports. Following up on that, we had to, just like my senior year, Willie had left, we had won the district in basketball. We were close to winning the GMC, I think, when I was a junior. And then, so you had to follow that kind of thing. And so it was that. And we went to the district. We ended up losing in the district against, I want to say, Derek Dickey. And he was at school it was. But lost to him, lost to his team. And the only reason he lost the team because my sidekick didn't want to play. He was mad at me for some reason or another. He didn't play as good as he wanted to play. And we ended up losing by 4 or 5 points. I forget what that was. But that was a lot of stuff growing up. And like I say, there was a lot of things going on around Garfield, like say the Ku Klux Klan and things of that nature. But we was very aware of it. We knew that we had to stay together as brothers in order to get through all of this. We planned on doing that, and we knew if we kept winning, they would stay away from us because all of our schoolmates would keep them away from us. We knew that. And as long as we was winning, we was covered by them as well as our intelligence that our father had gave us and my mother had gave us.
Mhm.
So it was something that was a learning feature. It prepared us for going farther on beyond Hamilton. I've been in rooms and schools with people from New York City, people from LA, people from Atlanta and stuff. And they didn't know any more than I did when it came to knowing what the world presented. And I say, I'm from a small town of Hamilton, but I got exposed to all these various things. And I was able to get them out of trouble or keep them out of trouble. And even though I only had a background of small town in Brundage in a small town of Hamilton. And it really has those kind of, as I call events, prepared as well for going on farther in life. And I've never have turned down where I'm from. I've always told people I'm from Brundage, Alabama. And people say, well, where's that? I say, it's south of Montgomery. They know where Montgomery is. Brundage, nah. I said, my father's from Troy. Where's Troy? I said, Troy is just a little bit east of Brundage. So, but that's the kind of thing we do. But that's the humbleness of my two brothers and myself. We realized that we were a special group, and being that a special group, special things was put upon us. And we have always, because of our mother and father, tried to lead in a way that allowed people like you to benefit from. So yeah, it was fun. We had a lot of fun. We did a lot of crazy things, like run around and play baseball just about over Ford's Field back in the day during the summer. There was a kid that's down the street from us used to come get all three of us, and we'd go over and play a whole baseball game over at Forest Park back in the day. And all he had on his team was us three, his younger brother, and him, 5. And we would play for like hours. On and on. And we always won. We always won. And we would play half a field with the group. In other words, so if you was left-handed bat, we would be over in right field. You were right-handed bat, you had center field and right. And left. So that's how we played you. And we usually beat anybody that came and played against us. And that was just pickup games.
Yeah. Tell me about Willie, kind of the football aspect at Garfield. We covered basketball, and like we talked about, you and Mike played football together. And, what was kind of the career like in high school, and maybe some of your fondest memories out there on the football field?
Well, let's start off with the fondest memory. Michael and I were talking at Notre Dame a couple weeks back, and the most fondest memory I remember having was us cheating to play. We signed each other a ticket to be able to play the game at Garfield. Our parents actually never knew we were playing football, and so we actually signed our own paperwork so we could play. I didn't play. I played 1 year at Roosevelt. I played my 9th grade year at Roosevelt, and I liked it, but I didn't play my 10th grade year at Garfield. I played my 11th and 12th grade year. I played for Lou Florio, and I loved it. I loved the game. Choosing between basketball and football, I think I was more built for football than basketball. I enjoyed playing it. I enjoyed the thrill of going out there and competing one-on-one. Even though you're a team, you're competing one-on-one against the person across from you. How are you going to handle this person? Because the variations of different people you have to play against. I enjoyed it. I got to play some defense a couple of times. I got to play against Lou Florio's son once. He played for Fairfield. And I remember one time I caught a pass coming across the middle, and Florio's son, he was a little guy, he tried to tackle me, and I hit him. He hit my kneecap, and I knocked him out. He went cold. And you know, those are the fun things you have. You know, you enjoy. You know, there's a different set of camaraderie and different set of people that, well, another additional set of people, because a lot of the guys that played basketball also played football. You know, if they could. And so, you know, you got more people on the field and more people you're having camaraderie with. But Garfield did good. I mean, we sent quite a few people to big schools. Um, we had sent people off to Purdue, and we sent people to University of Michigan. Clint Spearman went to University of Michigan. You know, and we had other people that went to other schools. A lot of schools, believe it or not, quite a few schools, colleges looked at Garfield as a source of players. And I remember going and talking to, in my senior year, Clint Spearman and I went and talked to Woody Hayes. You know, Woody came down from Columbus, and we sat in a restaurant not too far from Garfield for lunch, and we had lunch with Woody Hayes. You know, I remember talking to University of Michigan coach Bo Schembechler. Talked to Bo Schembechler. You know, I didn't choose those schools to go to. I chose going to Notre Dame. It was much smaller. Era never promised anything. Era Parseghian never promised anything. He just said, "Hey, you know, you come here, get a chance to play, and you get a great education." You know, those are the things that you can't take away from. You know, I taught for a while before I moved to Charlotte, and I tell people, you know, I tell kids that were in my class, this is one thing that nobody can ever take away from you. It's what you understand and what you learn. I says, they can take everything. They can take your money away. They can take your house away, but they can never take away the knowledge that you have gained in life. And you know, that's the kind of things that I learned when I was playing the game. You know, and playing for, I started that time with Lou Florio, and I went up through playing for Era Parseghian. You know, it's just a part of life. It's a part of the growth part of your life. You got to learn. You got to gain something from everything that you do. If you're not going to gain anything, don't do it. You know, don't do it, because you're wasting your time. And I watch some TV shows with my wife and my daughter sometimes, and I kid them. I look at something and I watch it for about half hour, and there's something they like, and I says, you know, I can't get that half hour. You know, it's not possible. And they understand what I'm saying, because, you know, I really lost that time. I mean, you know, I could have been doing something else.
Right.
It taught me to grow, and football helped me to grow along with basketball. And Garfield started it, and then it kept going on through college.
And Mike, what was that growth like for you, playing at Garfield football? Again, just being the younger brother, and also coming into, you know, your own game with that kind of being your strong sport that you really thrived in.
It was tough, to be honest with you, knowing that Brother Willie was doing so well his junior and senior year, and playing with such greats that came through Garfield, and Alex Davis, Turner Walker, all those guys and stuff. And used to when I was playing, it was like my brother said, the permission slip. We used to sign on permission slips and turn them in. And so my parents, we just told them that we was doing extracurricular activities at the school. So when I was in junior high, we would come over and watch Garfield play on Friday nights and stuff. And it was just fun watching that. It's the sport I love, which is football. And it was something. So as I left junior high and moved on to high school, that's basically when they first found out that we were playing extracurricular activities, better known as basketball and football. And I remember one time that it was a sport. I was my sophomore year, my grandmother was in town, and she had never been to a football game. She's from Brunswick, Alabama. She had never seen anybody actually play the game, never watched it on TV and stuff. So we took her to a game, and I remember Willie was coming over the middle, and he caught the ball. And he got tackled by the linebacker and the safety. And my grandmother stood up and told my mother to go out on the field and get those boys off of her son. And it's the most hilarious thing. I'm like, Grandma, what are you talking about? But it was that kind of growth that our family was, from our standpoint of the Suttons setting the standard and then the Townsend coming behind them, that our mom and dad wanted to make sure that not only did we go to school and do well in school, because they pushed grades. They pushed grades on us. He said, in the long run, you'd be better off in the long run with getting good grades. And playing sports was a way that we could have fun while we were getting good grades. And so following my two brothers, it was fun. It was really enjoyable because most of the conversation was about them. And I had to do something special in order to get some conversation about me. So it was tough. All my friends knew Payton. All my friends knew Willie. So it was tough for me trying to, outdo them on the football field, the basketball court, running track. It didn't matter, but it was great fun being the younger brother of these two. Really enjoyed that. It's special, and I still enjoy it to this very day. That's why I put us together, because we have never done a conversation like this to talk about what we did when we grew up. And it's a blessing that you came along right then and now, because I've been wanting this, but I didn't know how to get it. But you came along first. But yeah, it's nice to talk about my brothers. It's fun. I enjoy it. Proud of them. And I want to say it today. I'm proud of both of them. And yeah, we did great things, but we also was taught that, hey, get your grades. Make sure you're capable of going beyond playing your sport. Your sport will not get you to the end. At some point in time, you got to give it up, got to retire. So if you got the grades, which will get you that degree, which will take you even farther. And we all have really done very well. And to this very day, we're all retired now. I wonder if my brother Payton is retired, because every time I turn around, he sounds like he's working again. It's something that I call him up and he said, "Oh, I was out there working on the oil well." I'm like, "I thought you was retired 2 years ago." It's him and stuff, but we stay in touch, and it's just a blessing that all three of us are still alive and doing well today. So I appreciate this conversation.
Hey, Michael and Payton, hey, I appreciate this. Is like Michael said, this is the first time the three of us have actually even talked in this kind of environment. This is wonderful. I mean, we've been together at a long time ago, but recently this is the best.
There's one of the things, I think one of the family's best thing that happened to me is seeing all three of us together at the same time. There's always one or two, but never three. So we always keep in contact with each other. That's the good thing about it. And I think all three of our families all stick together. I think Mom and Dad really love that.
So, thanks, Brandon.
Yeah, yes, sir. And Payton, I want to move on to you guys in college. And Payton, you went to Southwestern Louisiana, one of the first athletes to integrate sports down there, being a Black player, and you still hold the record for field goal percentage in a career. So I just want to hear a little bit about your experience there and your time on the court.
Really, my freshman year was good. I enjoyed that. I got hurt the last game of the season. Shot at my elbow, my right elbow, the last game of the season. I was in the cast for about, I guess, 3 months, and it was one of the best. I think one of my best time I had down here was my coach. It was Coach Shipley. He kept me on a string. I had to go to class every day. That was the one thing. It was the best thing for you. If you don't go to class, you don't play. And he kept that on my heel every day. He always keep assistant coach. It was Tom Cox. Every morning he was there at my dorm and make sure I went to class. My first class always been 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. And he always there knocking on my door to see if I'm there. If I'm not there, you know I'm going to class. And it was the best year of my freshman year. I got a freshman of the year, and I got the most valuable freshman at the same year, and made the first team Gulf State tournament. And we was on probation that year. I came there with probation. The school was on probation for black athletes. I was a third black athlete that got a full scholarship. Another guy named Marvin Winkler, he was from Indiana, and he was the first one. Another one was Evan Ivory. He was the second. I was the third one. Got the full scholarship. Other black players on the team had partly scholarships and quarter scholarships. And some paid books and some paid tuition. That's how it was when I got here. And most of the guys came here from black. Well, one guy from Washington, D.C., he was on partial scholarship. He didn't like it too much. So I ended up taking his job. Because he was a 6'10", 360 pounds, and he was a bull. And I took his position, and he didn't like that too good. Me and him had a big falling out, and he found out he ended up me and him being one of the best friends I had. And he could take me every place I went. Every place I went, he went. And freshman year we didn't go nowhere in no tournaments. My sophomore year, I got in the hospital again before the season even started. The little guy from Louisiana hit me inside the head with a crowbar and shot at my right side of my head. And before the season started, right before I think the freshman came in, and I had one of the captains. I had to keep him off the practice court when we played there because they had a PE class there too, and he didn't like what I told him to get off the court. I told him 3 times, and the third time he went out one door and came in another door, hit me inside the head from the back. And I lived from there. And I played that season, and we ended up playing against some, I don't know, the Iceman. I played against him, and I played against another guard. I played with Boston, and I played against him. Can't think of his name right now, but and a couple more guys. They even played against Elvin Hayes.
Okay. Yeah, the Iceman, George Gervin. Yeah, he's a great player. And Willie, you kind of mentioned, your kind of reasoning behind going to Notre Dame. I want to know kind of, what it was like with Mike joining you. And, well, actually, I'll go to Mike and say, you were originally going to go to Purdue, I guess. And
That's correct. That's correct. I actually was, I got recruited by Purdue, heavily recruited by Purdue, heavily recruited by University of Michigan, heavily recruited by Ohio State. And the thing was that to follow up with Willie going to Notre Dame, because Willie that was back when Notre Dame was on Sunday mornings and it's late afternoon. We get back from church and Willie would run to the TV and turn on Notre Dame, and with Lindsey Nelson, he would just sit there until the game was over. I'd be outside playing football or something of that nature, doing something, whatever it was, and he was already there. Willie didn't put no pressure on me. He just let me figure it out. Purdue was chasing me down real big, real tough, along with University of Michigan, Bo Schimbecker, because of our high school coaching. Willie and Payton could contest to this, that our high school coach, basketball coach, Bob Sweeten, did not allow you to talk to any recruiter during basketball season. he would make you wait until basketball season was over, then talk to a recruiter. So if you went as far as going to state or went to district, you didn't get to talk to a recruiter until after all that was done. So by that time, it's past, it's close to March. And all you got is March, April, May left before they stop recruiting, or else they run out of, as they would call, scholarships. And my senior year, Purdue was sending me stuff, and they finally I went out and visited. I visited Purdue, went to Michigan, went to Colorado State. Where else I go? Whatever, and Notre Dame, and went to Notre Dame, and Willie was I was his guest. He was my guide for the weekend. He didn't push no pressure on me. He didn't say, hey, you need to come here, because that was his love. And he wasn't trying to push his love on me. And, I went there, I went around campus, and at the time, I noticed there wasn't a lot of African-American young men running around on campus. And it was all boys. So at the time. And so I took that in. So I came back, but once after the visit, came back and I put the pluses and minuses together with the various schools I went to. And Notre Dame was on the list, but it wasn't number one. And when I finally figured out, I said, well, if I go to Purdue, Mom and Dad can come to the Purdue Notre Dame game, and halftime they could switch. Whichever one side they want to sit on, they can switch to the other side for the second half. I said, if I go to Purdue, they'll get to see both of us one game out of the season, but they get to choose where they're going to go in the interim, because Purdue's close by. They could drive to that. I knew they was going to Notre Dame. And Payton being down in Louisiana, they go visit him during basketball season. So I pretty much, after I got through my visit and I put all the pluses and minuses together, I decided myself I wanted to go to Purdue, because they had an engineering degree in mathematics that I wanted to major in. Notre Dame didn't have that at the time. And so I went to school that morning, talked to Coach Florio. I said, Coach Florio, you need to call Bob, I think it was Bob DeMoss, who was the head coach at Purdue, and to let him know to send the paperwork down to the house. And so that's the only person I told. I didn't tell anybody else. I didn't tell Mom and Dad, because I was in school, so I couldn't tell Mom and Dad. They was working. And so Coach Florio called Bob DeMoss, and he had the paperwork sent down to the house. The wild issue is this. When I got home, it was during track season, this was going on. When I got home that day to get the paperwork from Coach Bob DeMoss from Purdue, there sat the assistant coach, Brian Bullock from Notre Dame. And the first thing I was like, he didn't even say hello. He was in the house talking to my mother, and he said, I hear you want to go to Purdue. And I said, how you hear that? Because the only person I told was Coach Florio.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I hear you want to go Purdue. He said, that's a bad choice. I said, no, it's not. I said, it's an engineering school. I said, I can go there and get the classes I want. He said, what classes you want? So I told him I wanted to go into math and get into computer science. But all that. He said, well, if I get that for you up at Notre Dame, will you hold off? And I looked at him like, I said, I was just there. Y'all don't have it. He said, but if I get that for you, will you hold off? I said, okay, I'll hold off. But I'm only giving you 2 weeks because it was like I said, it was track season. So it was going into April.
Yeah.
Going into April. And I said, I'll hold off. I said, I need to get my scholarship. I said, my brother's got theirs. I need to get my scholarship. Mm-hmm. And so he went back, and he sent me a notice that said I could major in one of those two if I chose to go to Notre Dame. That was within that 2-week window. And just so happened my girlfriend came by when he was there. And I told her all the pluses and minuses of Purdue and of Notre Dame. And she picked Notre Dame. And I asked her why she liked Notre Dame. She said, there's no girls there. and she said, I know how you are. I said, oh, I don't know why you said that, but she said there's no girls there. I said, oh boy. But anyway, she said, I said, okay, I'll take that into consideration. But when Coach came back and said I could in the 2 courses I wanted to major in, when he said I could, I said, well, shucks, I just go to Notre Dame. Mom and Dad could just come up to South Bend and watch the games. We both there. Never thinking that my brother and I would end up being on a national championship team. And they got to see all those games, everything. Our good friend Don Sissel, who ran a construction company in Hamilton, the Sissel Construction Company. Whenever my parents wanted to go to a game, he paid for their ticket to go. They got to fly when we was in LA, we was in New Orleans, New York. It didn't matter. He paid for their tickets to go, and we got to see our parents at wherever we played. And it's a great thing because my mother and father was making any kind of money that they could fly. They could barely drive to South Bend and be okay. But we all 3 have done so well that we all 3 live good. There's good thing. Willie does well, Payton does well, and I'm doing well. And our families have blossomed. I got 2 athletes that are grandkids that's one's definitely going to probably be an NBA trial guy. He's 6'6" now, and he's just a freshman in high school. Playing Parseghian. Okay. So in our family, there's something there. And it's coming later. It's going to be a second coming of the Townsends.
Mm. And Willie, you were a wide receiver kind of in the era, especially in the system. You guys like to run the ball a lot. But kind of what was your, I guess, game like as a wide receiver? And tell me about that road to the national championship, undefeated season, 1973, and just kind of everything that came with that season and what it felt like becoming a national champion.
Wide receiver, yeah, I had good speed, not the fastest, but pretty good speed. I could get down the road with long legs and long arms, and I could catch the ball pretty well. Better than quite a few. I got hurt my freshman year. I dislocated my left elbow, diving for a fumble in the spring game, and it just never straightened out. So I have a left arm that's only about, out of 180 degrees, it's about 160 degrees straight. So, but it didn't stop me. And the team was. I like the way Michael put it at one time. He says, we were just a bunch of guys that liked playing the game, and we had fun at it. the year we won the national championship. That's how we were. And I got to play. I got some games I got to start, some games I didn't. And then we ended up playing not like they do now, but playing for the national championship because we were ranked in the top 5. So we ended up playing at Alabama for the national championship. And so the final play, the final play that actually sealed the deal for us was through a guy that came off the bench that had never caught a pass his entire time at Notre Dame. His name was Robin Weber. He caught a pass that sealed the deal for us to allow us to win the national championship that year against Bear Bryant. They had a really good team. They had us backed up, and they thought that, hey, we can stop them, hold them here. We got it because they'll have a short, kick a punt, and then we can come down the field and have a chance of scoring. But the pass was thrown out of the back, and then the receiver caught the ball on the sideline, and that made the difference in the game for us. Playing for Era was a treat. He was a person that built character and built people to be stronger individuals. He believed in us. We believed in him. And it's a way of life for him, or was, because he's passed. Great guy, knew how to build a team, kind of like my friend, I call him my friend Marcus Freeman now. It's not about all this other stuff, all this winning that. It's about building individuals that understand what it takes to be successful. And that's what ERA was about, building individuals that take to be successful. And I feel strongly that is what caused me and my brother Michael, I can't speak of Payton because he was in Notre Dame, to want to be successful, not just to be good, but be successful. That takes you to a whole different level. I've done a lot of different jobs since I graduated, but they all go back, and I can put fingers on times at Notre Dame and during things that I was doing during the time that I was at Notre Dame that helped me to become the person that I wanted to be, the person that I wanted people to know that I am, as opposed to just someone that's in the world. I don't want to be just in the world. I want to be someone that's trying to lead and trying to help people to understand what is needed in order to be successful in the world. That's what I want to be. And football gave me opportunity to do that. And basketball did too, but football did the most because Era was quite the coach. He was quite the individual that understood a lot about life and a lot about human nature and a lot about young people and how to help young men become better men. And so to me, that's what life about. That's what you, Michael, Payton, and I, and you are all about. We're trying to help other people, not just young men, but young women of all colors, to be stronger individuals, to be better people in the world, not just to be in the world, but be better people in the world to help the world become a better place. Because it's not a good place right now, okay? But I understand that I need to make those things that all started back from high school to college and to after college. Every place I go, I try to make something better. I taught high school for a while. Middle school for a while, and in the middle school, every class that I had for 15 years came through. The kids came out better. They didn't go. They didn't have to come in as great. Some of them didn't, but everybody walked out of my class would come back to my class and talk to me at any time, and that's because I kept that process going through my life, and it's still going on in my life. I'm probably the only guy in the neighborhood that I live in, and all the houses are brand new in my neighborhood. I'm probably the only guy in the neighborhood that knows 60% of the people in the neighborhood. And they know me, because I want them to know that all African-American people are real people. They're not just somebody you see on TV and this and that. You know, I go talk to them. I go talk to everybody in my neighborhood because I want them to know that we're real. You know, we're not just something that somebody has called us on TV. We're real people. We have a feeling. We have a heart. We have a desire to want to do good and be better. And I always want to be that way. But that came through the years that I've had to go through to get here.
And Mike, your junior year, you had 10 interceptions, which is still a single season record at Notre Dame. 13 interceptions for your career. I wonder, you know, two questions, I guess. I read that you felt you could cover sideline to sideline. Basically, you had a lot of length, a lot of speed to cover. So I wonder about how you felt at that part of your game and what it's like to still have a record like that all these years later.
Okay, Brandon. It's when the record let me go back to the year that I broke the record. It was my junior year. There was a lady who Willie and I and a few of our former teammates who lived in Fisher Hall on campus. We all used to go to games at home as a group. You know, so you know we hang out together and then we just go over to the game. And we always had a path of how we gonna get to the game because Notre Dame fans they get there early. They get there on Thursday evening and stay Friday, and the game's on Saturday. If it's Saturday early, they're all through all the time. Then they stay after the game till Sunday. So you know you just kind of want to sort of like get to the stadium and get in the stadium so you can get prepared for the game and prepare yourself and get taped and things of the nation. And we would go as a group because one could lead us through and we just follow like a ladder, just follow each other on through. And we was going to, I forget, it was Michigan State game. And we was going through and what we had was we was snake through the crowd outside of the locker room and get right next to the stadium and ride that round part of the stadium, passing people by till we got to the locker room and then just dip into the locker room real quick. So we was getting there and we was almost to the locker room. I said we was less than 10 feet from the locker room. This lady saw me and she called my name. She said, "Mike Townsend, you need to do something. You need to do something now." And this was like the third game of the season. And I took that on the onus and I said, this lady out of the blue just called me out. She didn't say nothing to all the other guys. There was 6 other guys around me, but she picked me out and she wanted to do something. So that game was my first interception that year. Like I say, it was the third game of the season. So in 7 more games, I had 10. I cannot understand why defensive backs nowadays don't have 10 in 5 games. They're throwing at a percentage of probably double what was being thrown. Remember back when I was playing, Woody Hayes said 3 yards in the clouds of dust. They was playing like that. It wasn't a whole lot of passing. It was some passing, but it wasn't a whole lot of passing. I am amazed that the record is still what it is, still there after 53 years. And there's some great players that Watts, who played for Notre Dame, he was their free safety last year. He's in the pros now. Kyle Hamilton, who's played for the Giants. I thought he was going to break the record. I've seen remnants of somebody who could break it, but they haven't. And it's amazing to me that it's still there. And I'm proud that it is. My teammates, every time we have a reunion, they love to brag about it because we was national champs and my record is still there. And they claim both of those, even though the one belongs to me, but they claim both of us. I said, well, you know, we got the interception record for all the last 53 years. It was national champs. So, you know, it's fun. But I enjoy it. I have fun with it. It's going to be a day somebody break it. The guy that had it before me was Jack Snow. And I knew who it was. And I chased him down. That's really what it was. I chased him down. The last game of the season was against Southern Cal. Didn't realize this, but I knew I needed 3. I got 3, but didn't realize I had 3 until the game was over. Even though I intercepted 3 of it, but the disappointing point was the fact that Anthony Davis scored 6 touchdowns, and we lost the game, and that was the hoopla. I got defensive player of the game. He got offensive player of the game, and I wondered. I said, "Well, why are you giving me the defensive player?" He said, "Well, you got 3 interceptions," and that's the first time. And that was after the game. That's the first time I realized I had 3 interceptions. But, yeah, that record is special, and my grandkids and kids really love doing that. We went back for a few games with the kids when they was younger, and when people run up to you at Notre Dame games and they want your autograph and all that, the kids just loved it. They just love that stuff. We just had one with my brother and I, Willie. We was just up there for the USC game 2 weeks ago. And we're going through the crowd, snaking through the crowd, and these 2 ladies scream at us both and say, "Stop." We said, "Stop." They pointed at us. "You 2 are somebody." That's all they said. "You 2 are somebody. And we going to take a picture with you." And, you know, we end up having a conversation with the ladies, but they just out of the blue, and all that crowd, they knew we were somebody. And they stopped us, took pictures with us and all that, got our autograph and all that. So, but yeah, it's a fun thing to do. Notre Dame is probably the smartest move I know in my mind that I made, because the coach was unbelievable. Greatest man other than my father. And the second greatest man is coach from Minnesota Vikings. But Coach Parseghian, the man was all about making you better as a man, as a young man. And he knew that if he made you better, the team would be better. And you would graduate in 4 years. That was the biggest thing he wanted to happen for us.
Payton, you know, what was kind of your point of view of watching your 2 younger brothers kind of perform on that stage and accomplish, you know, some things on the national level? Kind of what did you think of that, and kind of what was your, like I said, point of view when that was going on?
I was proud of them because I watched Notre Dame football. It's about both of them in school, and most of my family down here, they're LSU fans. And I said, well, I'm not an LSU fan. My brother's playing out there, and I said I'm gonna root for them. I said I'm still rooting for them. I root for Notre Dame. I still don't root for LSU yet. Notre Dame always been my friends. My 2 brothers went to school there. I'm glad both of them went to school, and both of them got what they wanted. And both of them went to pros, and both of them real satisfied with both of them. And I think the school did a lot of things to them, same way it did to me. The people that you associate with, that's the ones that will get you over your hump, and all you're scared to, especially a black person, to be where you're at now. Both of them had coaches, and high school coaches and college coaches and professional coaches and all that. I think both of them did a good job on both ends of their stuff, and I'm real proud of them right there.
Willie and Mike, you 2 also played a couple of years of basketball, as you mentioned, at Notre Dame. And I just wonder, you know, that's something you rarely see. I know a couple guys over the years that have done it. And so I wonder, Willie, like, how did that even come about that you got on the basketball team? And I guess Mike as well, when you came along those 2 years, how did it even come about of you playing for Digger Phelps, playing basketball?
Digger had actually recruited me to play basketball out of high school, and he was at Fordham at the time. And when he got to Notre Dame, he had inquired because he needed some players. The previous coach kind of left him kind of high and dry, and he ended up having to go out and do some heavy recruiting, trying to find some players. And at the last minute, so he found some, but he had asked me if I would come out and play for him because he knew me from high school. And I got the permission from Eric Parseghian, the football coach, and also from the academic guy, Mike Chico, if I could play basketball. So I got their permission, and I went out and played first year. And then that's when we had probably the weakest team. We had a lot of players on the team that, passing wasn't one of their fortes. Okay. But we did all right. I mean, we lost more than we won, but we won a few games. And then the second year, they brought on guys like John Shoemade and Gary Brokaw and Dwight Clay and some other players on. And we ended up going to the NIT finals. And we played in Madison Square, New York for probably a week or two before, in the NITs. And they're a lot different then than they are now. Back then, they only took 16 teams, I think, or something like that, to the NIT, and they all played in New York. All the games were in New York City at Madison Square Gardens. And I enjoyed playing for Digger. Digger is an interesting person. He has a very strong personality, and he stood up for his teammate, for his team. I remember on many Sundays going over his house, and his wife would make breakfast for us. We'd have a big old breakfast for the whole team, all the players, because they lived fairly close to campus. So you could actually walk to his house if you wanted to from where I lived on campus. And he's a great guy to want to play for. He had a lot of interesting things and a lot of things that were different. But I enjoyed playing basketball in Notre Dame. I had a good time. I got to play with some good guys. I got to play against some really good people. Like I say, people that went on to play professional basketball, and they actually helped me. I remember playing against Bill Walton one time, and he was rebounding, and he and I had gotten a little tussle. And so he went down the floor, and our band used to be right behind the basketball goal at the end of the court there. And he was mouthing off and doing some shoving to me. I didn't like it very much. And so I boxed him out and knocked him into the band one time. And so, life was good. I got no problem. It was all legal, and I did the right thing. And but he used to say, Wooden used to say, "Get that football players off the court." It's life. Basketball. I say to my daughter played basketball in high school, and my son played for a little bit. And I used to say, basketball is the only non-padded contact sport. Because it is a contact sport. But I enjoyed playing basketball for Notre Dame. It was a lot of fun, and I got to play all across the country because Notre Dame plays everywhere. Back then, they weren't in the league, and but now they're in the ACC, which is kind of nice for me living in Charlotte because they play I can watch 4 or 5 games within 2 hours from where I live right now. So that's kind of nice. The women play here. I've seen them play a number of times. Ladies, women basketball team. I've seen them play here quite a bit. Matter of fact, I'm going to 2 games this year. One down in Atlanta, and then the other one is going to be in Winston-Salem up here to watch women play basketball. Because I enjoy it. I enjoy playing it. And having gone to Notre Dame, played for Notre Dame, and I can get opportunity for tickets and go do things that maybe other people can't do. I like that.
And Mike, you mentioned before, football really being your thing, but what did you like about playing basketball at Notre Dame?
Well, it was the thing started out with Willie and I was still playing for Air Parseghian, and the season was beginning. They rolled to the end, and Digger Phelps, Coach Phelps, was having trials with the student body and trying to get some other players because he had one player who had a blood clot, so he couldn't play. Then he had a point guard that couldn't play, and then had another injury. So he had 3 players that they were on scholarships, and so therefore those 3 players could play. And the student body had saw my brother Willie and I play, as they call it. It's called fishing. It's called bookstore basketball, and also they have a hall league. Each hall's got a team, and they play against teams from the various other halls, and it's in a league and stuff. And we was playing teams, and the teams we was playing, we was beaten by 30 to 40 points, and teams wouldn't show up when they found out they was playing Fisher Hall, which was our team, because we had about 4 or 5 football players on the team, because we had recruited some guys to Fisher Hall and they was coming in as freshmen. And we had a very talented team, and we played up and down basketball. Basically, I knew what my brother was thinking before he even dribbled the ball. So we would beat teams by, like I say, 30 and 40 points. And then sometimes if the team didn't think they was good enough, they wouldn't show up with enough players to even play a game. Well, it got around campus that the Townsend brothers play a good game of basketball. And when Digger was looking for additional players, the student body went to Digger and said, hey, you need to get those 2 guys from the Townsend brothers and get them to have a tryout. So he, like Willie said, he went and talked to Coach Parseghian. Coach Parseghian put some stipulations that we had to follow if we was going to be on the team, and stuff, and also approval from Coach DeChico, which was our counselor, educational counselor, things we had to meet and make sure we were still gainfully, from a grade point, good and stuff. So that was all mentioned and stuff. And Digger asked for a meeting between my brother and I, and we had a meeting. And Digger asked, would you guys mind a tryout? And this was after the season that Jesse in for football. So we really wasn't in our basketball mode yet, because in football it's quick dashes here and there. In basketball, they're quick dashes, but they continue to be quick dashes going you up and down. Football, it could be a quick dash, one play, a slow dash the next play, don't even move on the next play. So we wasn't what we call in shape for basketball. But Digger wanted us to come by. He wanted to see whether or not we could chew gum and walk at the same time. Even though we had played football, he still wanted to see it physically. So he had a trial for us, and he did it in a, as I call a hidden gym. There's gyms in the athletic and convocation center up in Notre Dame that are on the same level. But this gym he chose to have the trial was in a basement basketball court, where he had a as a security guard, one of the managers standing by the door, because the student body had heard about we was going to have a tryout that day. And the student body wanted to see what we could do against Digger's team. And we didn't know any of the teammates. We didn't know not one of the teammates. So we went down and we did it, and we did a figure 8 drill. We did a dribble drill. We did all that stuff. And Dick saw we could dribble and run and chew gum at the same time. And he said, okay. He took his starting 6 and went down to one end of the court. And he told Willie and I, he said, well, pick among the guys that are left. We didn't know any of them, so we didn't know what kind of talent they had. So we picked the tallest guy that was out there, that was left. And we picked 2 other guys. We needed another guard, and we needed another forward. We just picked them. We figured, weight-wise and height-wise, they'd be on our team. And we knew what we were going to do. We weren't worried about it. We just needed somebody that would at least help us with getting rebounds and help us playing defense and all that. So Digger went down, got his teams. Okay, we going to play. We played, and we beat his starting 5 by 30 or 40 points. He didn't keep score because he didn't know what was going to happen, but he did keep time. And we beat his starting 5, and then at the end of that, he said, hey, you guys want to be on the team? And I looked at Willie. I said, well, it's up to you, man. I said, I'm just here. And I said, can you give us 24 hours? And so he gave us 24 hours. And Willie got me back in the dorm because we was in the same dorm. He said, hey, you want to play or not? And I said, well, it's up to you. If you want to play, I'll play. And he said, I think I want to play. So we both played. We played for 2 years. The first year, it wasn't a great team. Like Willie said, they didn't pass the ball a lot. They didn't realize what they had. The next year, we was in NIT. The NIT at the time, when we went to the NIT, was bigger than the NCAA. Mm-hmm. So we was in the finals in the NIT a year later from that very same team. And the NCAA wasn't as big as it is now. Now, they don't even think about the NIT, but it's still there. But the NCAA wasn't as big as the NIT. But it was fun playing for Digger. He's a special kind of guy. Great coach, individual that I remember we was playing Marquette. It was on national TV. And Digger, he came to Willie and I was coming to the locker room to get ready for the game and stuff. And Digger comes out from behind his, I guess he was in the bathroom or else he was in the bathroom. So he comes out and he's got a bow tie on. And he asked Willie and I, how do I look? And I said, Coach, you look good with that bow tie. That's different. He wanted to outdo the coach at the time at Marquette was Al McGuire. Al McGuire was known to dress. He was one person that he dressed to the nines. And Digger wanted to outdo him. But that's the kind of coach he was. He was flamboyant, as they call it. But yeah, playing for Digger was fun. We had a lot of fun. And like I say, we went from 1 year not winning hardly anything to next year being in the finals at NIT. And only lose that by 1 point. Yeah. So it was fun. We really had a great time. And it reminded me of the times when we used to play down here in Garfield. It was just, we just knew how to win. It was something that we learned from playing under coaches like Coach Sweeten and Coach Floro, that we knew how to win, and playing for Coach Parseghian. We knew how to win.
Yeah, you guys, you both graduated, and Mike, you were drafted in the 4th round, 86 overall. And Willie, you were drafted by the Rams, I believe 14th round. There was a lot of rounds back then, I think. Mm-hmm. What was that moment like, just being able for each one of you, getting in the professional ranks, and run down a little bit of your professional careers before you moved on from the sport?
You go first, Michael.
Okay. All right. So being a senior, having a national championship. Matter of fact, Willie and I both decided that when we became national champs, that we wasn't going to play basketball that following fall. We chose not to, and that's the year that the 88 that UCLA had. They had a record of 88, and Notre Dame beat them. And we could have been a part of that, but we chose not to play basketball that year because we were national champion. Once you're national champion, how do you get any better? So, but being drafted by the Vikings was a big challenge. It came at me kind of a surprise, like you say, in the 4th round. I was, when you're in the dorm and stuff, and when now they bring the players to a facility that they have all this hype and stuff up with the NFL support and stuff like that. But we used to get phone calls in the dorm room telling you coach from whatever team, mine happened to be Minnesota's Bud Grant. And I really wasn't even in my room. My door was open. My next door neighbor answered the phone, and he screamed down the hall to get me to come to answer the phone. But I ended up talking to Coach Grant. He told me that he just drafted me in the 4th round, and that he wanted me to come visit Minneapolis, and so he could see what he got to offer from Minnesota. So at the time, I had to come up with an agent, and so in order because you're going and this is the first time, because you're dealing with a lot of documents that you have not been made aware of, but you know about them, but you've just not been made aware of. You need to make sure you don't sign your name to something that they tell you you're going to give you 100,000 and you only get 10,000 out. So you want to make sure you get all that what you signed up for. So I ended up coming up with an agent, and while I was working on getting a plane flight to Minneapolis, and flew to Minneapolis, and it was very awakening for me. I had never been to Minneapolis. Farthest north I had been Detroit, Michigan. Went to Minneapolis, and on the side of the road there was piles of snow as high as 6 and 7 feet. I had never seen that much snow in my life. And we was going all the way to Municipal Stadium, which is home of the Vikings, and got there. And I asked Coach who picked me up from the airport. He said, I asked him, how do people get around here? Because there's so much snow. It's just impossible to drive. He said, oh, you learn how to ski. I said, okay. I said, okay, that's how you get around. Okay. So, that was a rude awakening for me again. So we went there, and I got to talk to Coach Grant, got to meet him and stuff, and met the other coach, and met my defensive back coach and stuff. And they told me that what it was, and they would put documentation. Would I like to come there? And I told them, yes, I would, and stuff. And being that we had just won the national championship, I was feeling pretty good about myself, knowing that my talent was worthwhile, that they would draft me. And so I knew I had an in with them. And because I was very talented, and just the year before I led the nation in interceptions. And so, I had a lot going for me and stuff, and talking to Coach. And so I left there and came back, started thinking about it. And then the World Football League came about and got drafted. First round, first pick by Jacksonville. So now I got a hassle. I got Minnesota on one end. I just saw that snow. I went down to Florida to see Jacksonville, and here it is, sunshine. You got the Atlantic Ocean. You got beaches, and you wear far less clothes than you do in Minnesota, and weighed all that. And they gave me a bonus that was 4 times bigger than what was given to me up in Minnesota. So I had to weigh all that, talk to my agent. My agent said, well, Mike, you getting the kind of bonus that number 1 pick in the NFL is getting. So I weighed that. Okay, and the owner invited my parents down to visit with him. And with all that going on, so I ended up signing with Jacksonville. Even though I went with Minnesota, I could have been a national championship winner on January 1st and be in the Super Bowl the very next year. And I went with Minnesota. That's the only one thing that I think I did wrong through all my sport life. Had I had to do it over again, I probably would have went with Minnesota and not went with Jacksonville. But ended up playing a year down there. Team somewhat folded, left him, came back to the NFL, went to Minnesota. Didn't really like that. Ended up going with New York Giants and playing there. Then I said, well, shucks, I'm not going to beat myself to death. I'm going to education. I left football. I haven't regretted it. Like I say, the only regret is that I went to Minnesota right out of college. I would have changed my whole life. But I enjoyed everything I've done. I've talked with fellow players that played with me both in college and played professionally, and all of them enjoyed the game. And the biggest thing is that you come out of the game with all your faculties. That's the biggest thing, because football is a rough sport. It's really a rough sport. Basketball is rough too, but football, you can legally hit somebody and knock them into next week, as you know. As you keep. So, but yeah, I enjoyed it and had a lot of fun with it, and wouldn't see it any other different. And it's been a blessing, both for my wife and I, and especially when we go back to South Bend, enjoy that. And Notre Dame's known all over the world. I've been recognized in islands, in the Caribbean. We get on ships and people recognize and want to come up and meet you and all that. It's like, go to different cities, find out people have been in Vegas and been recognized. It's a great feeling, and realize there's people out there that know you. I just met a gentleman the other day, and he knows all of my records. He was quoting them to me, and I'm like, unbelievable. These people know you that well, and stuff. So it's a great feeling. It really is a blessing.
Yes, sir. If Willie, you could tell me about your experiences going with the Rams and what all happened with that.
Okay. All right. I got drafted by the Rams. Like Michael said, needed an agent. So my agent happened to be Parseghian. He negotiated my contract. Okay. And which was nice, because I told him, I says, I have no idea what to do. And he says, well, you're going to need an agent. You're going to need this. And so I says, well, he says, I've done it for a few players. I can get my lawyer to get involved and get you set up. So he set me all up. And I went out and visited Chuck Knox, and great guy. And got in my car, took my drive to southern California. So I drove out for practice, and with young bloods, both the young bloods, Jack Snow, as Michael has mentioned, Lance Rensel, and Ron Jaworski, and all these, ball players that you read about, or see on TV, but I got a chance to meet them all, and great guys, very funny. I remember going to preseason practices with the young bloods. They had a Jeep, and we were practicing on Cal State Fullerton campus. And I remember sitting in the back of the Jeep, holding on because they were chasing rabbits through the orange groves here on campus. So it was fun, and they're all great people. We lived in the dorms and stuff like that. And I got a chance to play in several games, preseason games, and I enjoyed myself. I had my engineering degree, and what it came down to is that they wanted to trade me before season started to New York. And I went in and told coach, I says, I'm not saying I don't want to go to New York. I'm just saying that I have an engineering degree, and I want to use my engineering degree. And so I did. I chose to use my engineering degree. I went to. I had a job already with a company called Corning Glassworks, and in State College, Pennsylvania. And so I went to work for Corning Glassworks, and did quite well. Matter of fact, I made more money the first year working for Corning Glassworks than I would have made playing in the NFL. So I did quite well. I had an opportunity to do engineering. I worked in designing a robotic equipment using different kind of systems called Numatrol back in the day, and basically we picked up and moved things around. And so I designed equipment to do that. I ended up being a supervisor, managing people on the floor and doing the same thing. And so I got quite adept at being able to design equipment and become very efficient. And so my career in NFL was short-lived. Short-lived because I felt like, hey, I can probably do better. I'd be better serving myself if I just went on and did my engineering degree. And it has served me quite well. And like Michael says, there's Notre Dame people all over the world and all over the United States. And if you need something, if you need help or you need to contact somebody, you can go online or go to Notre Dame thing and find somebody in the area and that you want to go, and they'll help you. They'll help you. They may not get you the job, but they'll help you contact somebody that can help you get the job. I live here in Charlotte, in this neighborhood that I live in. There are three Notre Dame people that live in this neighborhood within 2 blocks of where I live. And matter of fact, there's a family that just moved in here. I have a Notre Dame flag out in front of my house. I don't know why. Notre Dame flag out in front of my house. And so I was out there washing my car one day, and this family, and this guy who retired and his wife, they stopped by to say hi. And I said, hey, you're in Notre Dame. I said, oh yeah, back in the day, So he says, do you know Gary Diminick? And do you know that? Did you play with him? Because I understood that there was a guy in our neighborhood that played with him. I said, yeah, that's probably me. He said, your name is? I said, told my name is. Oh yeah, we know who you are. And then my car is drying up in the sun because they can't wash it off. But anyway, that's the kind of things that happens, and some of that happens because of Notre Dame. Because everywhere I go, even to the gym, in other places, people want to talk about Notre Dame. Who you guys play this week? What do you think's going to happen? Got any information on this? What do you think about that? And people want to know about Notre Dame, and they love the Notre Dame coach. They love Marcus Freeman. Here in North Carolina, excuse me, they love that guy. I mean, and it's because people follow Notre Dame, and they follow what they know is somebody like Freeman, who is a person that's pushing people, young men, to be better and to be the best they can be. And that's the kind of environment that people tend to want to be a part of, that group of people, which is Notre Dame. And when you mention Notre Dame and football, people are on it. And my time with the Los Angeles Rams, great. Never had an issue. No problems at all. Loved it. Got to play in all the preseason games, and then didn't want to be traded. They said, hey, I can make more. I can do better. Era taught us all to be the best we can be. And I wanted to be the best I could be, and being the best I could be didn't mean I had to play football. I could do other things.
Well, you guys all had great careers, not only athletically, but, as you mentioned, Willie, after, hanging up the sports and, it's just been a privilege to have you guys on here to kind of, tell, your story. Um, the generation I'm from, I went to Garfield as a middle school, and we see that banner painted on the wall up there, and I see the Townsend's names up there, and you know, we always, kind of wondered, well, who are those guys? We don't know exactly because we're a lot younger, Then we might hear a little from our, uncles and grandparents about what they were and what you guys did. So, it's great to, hear the story, from you guys personally. And I know, the people, you know, will enjoy, to hear from you guys and, just kind of hear your story and where you've been and, what you've been doing. So really appreciate you guys coming on.
Hey, thank you. Very appreciate you having the program for us to come on to. That's great.
This is the first time since we left Hamilton that all three of us have been interviewed at one time. So you're the first.
Very true.
You're the first.
I
And I
feel
wanted you to be the first. I wish you the very best, Brian. I really do. I appreciate you taking the time to do this with my two brothers and because, like I said, when I told you, I said it's never been done, and it's a story that needs to be told, and for not only people in Hamilton but people all over, and it's a great story of three young men growing up in big city of Hamilton and making it big in the real world.
Yep.
And still around. So appreciate you coming together for us.
Yes, sir. When you talk about athletics and some of the greats in Hamilton, it can't be talked about without mentioning the Townsend brothers. And that's how I'm going to end this. Again, appreciate you guys and, best of wishes to you all.
Thank you, man.
Yes,
Thank you.
You too. Thank you.